Yeah. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Sam here. So, what's happening today is let me move this out the slide. Yeah. So, what's happening today is Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, actually, 1 p.m. And I'm just trying to set up my skates to go skate. And last weekend, I was trying to learn some wizard tricks and stuff like that. And I had these set up here, right? I had this set up here, plastic shell with the rocking frames. These are the rocking 190 frames. So I have 100 here, front and back, and I have 90 mm in the middle, right? They are not wizard skating frames, but you can do a little bit of wizard stuff with it because this is rocket, right? And so I was trying to learn a few tricks like really fast foot combinations and stuff like that, and I wasn't quite getting them because I have a rocket frame again on a plastic setup, and the plastic is generally like a little more flexible. So, what happens when I was doing those tricks or trying to come up with those tight foot maneuvers is I would sort of lose flex, like this will flex too much and I would miss it. So, today I'm trying to swap the frames with the. I'm trying to swap these frames and then put them on my carbon shell skids. These are 90 flat on here, so I'm trying to swap the rocking frames and put them on here. And then I just thought, while I'm doing the swapping of the frames, I should just like do a comparison or like talk to you guys or give you guys my insights or my take on what it's like and the differences and differences, advantages and disadvantages of the carbon boot over the plastic boot and stuff like that. Yeah. So a lot of the a lot of the comparisons I'm going to make. Also, I have one person watching now. Big shout out to you. Let me know where you are watching from, and also let me know how I sound like. It's really important to me because I'm outside today and there is loud music in the back of my house. So I can actually hear the music. I don't know if you can hear. So let me know how I sound like. And let's get into that. I'm going to be doing the talking and also like trying to organize my stuff here because I got pieces of boats and stuff here. So sorry if I'm not always looking into the camera and I might miss a question or two, but I will try to be doing both at the same time. It's going to be a little bit of a long stream, but pardon me, I'm a little bit nervous too. It's me again, Nicholas. Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. You sound clear and audible. So, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. So, basically, uh, this is a carbon shell boot. This is a plastic shell skate. Main differences are pretty obvious. This is made of carbon fiber. This is made of plastic. Okay. And a lot of times, like the selling points for carbon skates are the fact that they are very responsive and they are lightweight, right? In comparison to plastic, they are lighter. But me holding this now, I'm thinking, you can't really feel the weight, the difference in match weight. I think you would actually find the weight difference if you put them on a scale. If you put this carbon boot on a scale and you put this plastic boot on a scale, there's definitely going to be difference in weight. But if you wear these on your feet, I'm not sure you are going to feel any much difference in weight. So for me, in my opinion, the weight factor doesn't really matter. And that shouldn't be the only reason why you would want a carbon boot over a plastic shell or you would want a plastic shell over a carbon boot. Next off is how stiff and responsive they are. The carbon shells are very responsive and very stiff. If I try to bend this cuff here forward, this is a carbon boot and a carbon cuff. It wouldn't go forward, right? So you have like almost no flex on this. Very less flex. There is some flex to some extent, but you have very little flex on here compared to the plastic shell. On the plastic shell, you have a lot of flex. I can't bend this right now, but if you do skip the plastic shell, you have a lot more flex on a plastic shell than on a carbon shell. Next thing I would like to talk about is the number of mounting systems. Now, if you look under this plastic boot here, this is just a 2-point mounting system. We have one here, we have one here. This is a 165 mount, and Some boots allow you to actually move the mounting points up or down. So like on this plastic shell, this is the micro MT4 lavender skates. I changed the cuff because I broke this thing over here. I'm going to talk about that later in the video. So if you look at the mounting point, this is just two holes. There is one here, there is one here. But if you look under the carbon shell, there are several holes. This is actually 7 point mounting system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the advantages of this one over this one is the fact that on the carbon shell, you can put a lot of several frames. So for instance, this frame here is a 165, right? Raised heel 165, raised heel 165 mount. I think I can tell that from the inside. So from this second hole here to here, from this one to this one is 165 millimeters. Yeah, and so if you have a carbon boot, you can actually mount this on it. What happens is, or the advantage is, you have more holes in here. You have like 3 holes lined up in the middle, and you have 2 on the left and right. For most people use the ones in the middle because most people have, excuse my language, irregular feet. I'm sweating a little bit, never sweating. Yeah, so for a lot of people, we use the holes in the middle here because, like I said, most people have, sorry for my language again, regular feet. But for people that have like some kind of problem legs, or say bow legs, where your feet fall onto the side a little bit, a carbon shell would be good for you, because if you have these holes here, the ones on the left side, it means you could actually, like, if your feet falls, say, on the outside a little bit, you could actually shift your frames a little bit towards the holes on the left side here, so that when you wear your skates, you are like a little more straight as compared to when you fix them in the middle. And because your legs fall onto the side, you are going to have like this way, you know. If it's in the middle, then it's going to be like this. But if you have like some kind of problem with your feet, where your feet go out this way like bow legs, and you have your frame mounted on this side, then it's actually going to like straighten it up just a little bit. Whereas on the plastic shells, some plastic shells do allow the frame to go left or right, but in this case I can only go up and down here, right? So with the mounting system, obviously you have more mounting options on a carbon shell than on a plastic shell. Now let's come to the type of skating you would want to be doing with the carbon and the plastic. So for somebody like me, if you follow my Instagram a lot, you realize I jump around a lot, and so most of the time I need a lot of forward flex, and I need my boots to be a little bit forgiving. I need all the support I can get from the calf, but I need a little bit of forward flex, because every time you'd have to jump, you'd have to like go down, and your calves will sort of have to go forward a little bit, you know, like go down, go up before you jump. So that forward flex is important. So for somebody that's like actively urban skating and jumping around up and down stuff, you need that forward flex. And a plastic shell is actually like perfect for it, because you get that kind of flex. And yeah, you do get that kind of flex from the plastic shell. Whereas go inside. Go back, go inside. Okay, so that's my kid sister. She was trying to go in there, and then like she's sort of scared of interrupting my stream and stuff like that. But I'm just learning to do this, and I'm getting a little more comfortable. So yeah, she's going to be coming out any moment. So back to what I was talking about. If you are jumping around a lot, then you really do need every kind of support you can get, especially that forward flex, because you are jumping around a lot. So I think a plastic shell is the way to go. But if you decide to go on a carbon shell, because yeah, carbon shells are very responsive, they are more durable, like very responsive, very durable, lightweight, they say, which I said earlier, like you wouldn't really feel the difference in weight if you wear them on your feet. You would actually like feel them on a scale, but not on the how is it called? You wouldn't feel them if you wear them. You know, you can't really tell the difference in weight if you wear them. So for somebody that's actively urban skating, yes, a carbon shell is responsive, but then if you tighten your carbon shell, you know, the lace loops go all the way up here, right? The lace loops go all the way up here. If you tighten the carbon shell all the way up here, because of how stiff the caps are, you wouldn't get enough forward flex. So if you are somebody that jumps around a lot, then you would have problems because you wouldn't feel comfortable having to jump because you can't go down that much, especially if whatever you are trying to jump over or jumping onto is a little bit high. You would have to like push down on the front and you need a little bit of forward flex. However, on the carbon shell, there are a little bit of ways to go around it. Yes, the shell won't flex forward, but if you loosen up, if you don't tighten this all the way in, if you don't tighten the buckle all the way in, and there is actually a little bit room up here, it means if you go down and you push on here, you would get a little bit of flex from here. The flex wouldn't be from the cuff. The flex is going to be from the liner and the tongue of the liner in here. And that's another part I would get into, the liner bit of the boots. So to get that forward flex on the carbon shells, it means you wouldn't have to lace them all the way up and you wouldn't have to tighten the buckle so much. And so you would get a little bit of flex from the tongue because this would forgive you. But then what happens is, in my experience, if I'm actively urban skating or street skating, I would prefer being on the plastic shell because if you are out actively skating in the street, it's not a guarantee that you would land everything, like you would land every single trick. So for instance, you jump up a 180, you land backwards. On the plastic shell, if you are not able to land precisely, say you jump up this way and you are not able to land precisely this way, and say if it's a 180, if you do a 180 and you land say a 160, if you get what I mean, like right from front here to back here is a 180. But what if you do a right from the front here and you land say this way, okay, where you don't get a perfect 180? If you are on a plastic shell, it's easier to get away with it. But if you're on a carbon shell, because of how responsive and how stiff this is, if you do jump a 180 and you land it say a 160 or in a 170, it's very hard for you to get away with it if you are on a carbon shell, because this isn't forgiving. So you sort of have to be very precise in every trick you do. And that's the reason why a lot of slalom skaters would go for a carbon shell, because this is very responsive and the precision on the carbon shells is amazing. The least foot movements you do, the boot goes there. Whereas on the plastic shell, it's a little bit forgiving and you can get away with a lot of things. So in my opinion, for active urban skating and jumping around and stuff like that, I would definitely take the plastic shell over the carbon shell. Now let's get to the liner bit. Okay. Now, if you look at both skates, there is liners in there. But the thing with the plastic shell is you can take the liner out of the plastic shell and then change the liners. So for instance, if you buy a plastic shell boot and the liner isn't comfortable, you can just take this out. I'm not going to separate them because the laces are very long and I lost these things on the tips of the laces, so it would be hard for me to put the laces back. So I'm just going to keep the liner in for now. But then on the carbon shell, hold on a second, I'm going to pick that up soon. But then on the carbon shell here, you can't really take out the liners. Like a lot of carbon shell boots are not made so you can take out the liners. Now I understand the importance of using carbon shells. Thanks. Welcome, I'm glad you are learning something. So on the carbon shell boots, you can't really take out the liners, right? But then I've seen a few situations where some people actually cut out the liners from the boots, or currently there are some carbon shells that come with removable liners, but a lot of carbon shells come with an integrated liner where the liner is actually a part of the shell, and so you can't take them out. And so in most cases, it's actually very comfortable that the liners stay in there, and that equally makes them very responsive because you wouldn't have the problem of the liner moving around in the skates. Whereas if you have a plastic shell where the liner is a separate, like the liner is actually separate and sitting in the shell, then there is a possibility the liner can slide around a bit in the shell, especially if your feet is a little bit smaller. you would have the problem, or you would actually feel the your feet moving around in the shell of the boot. But then you wouldn't face any of those situations on a carbon shell. If you're a smaller feet on a carbon shell, then that is going to be a fit problem, because it wouldn't fit. Like, you'll feel they are bigger, but then you wouldn't feel your feet moving around, or you wouldn't feel like the liner is moving around or the insoles are moving around. So on that bit, I think the carbon shell, that's also what makes the carbon shell a little more responsive. Now, coming to what kind of skating, I know I already spoke about urban skating, but nowadays a lot of people are doing like the wizard style skating and more flat land stuff. And a lot of them are doing them on carbon fiber shell boots, because, like I said, these are very responsive. And they are enjoying them more because they are skating them on rocket frames. For those that don't know what rocket frames are frames where you have like two wheels touching the floor most of the time. Like, you don't have all four wheels touching the floor, right? Yes, what is your personal preference? Which shell is better for wizard skating? Yeah, I'm coming to that. So for those that are doing a lot of wizard skating, they are doing them on plastic shells, because the plastic shell is very responsive. Like I said, the integrated liner, how stiff it is, it's very responsive and very supportive. But then it wouldn't forgive you, because, like I said, this is very precise. Every move you make has to be on point. So if you skate the carbon shells on a rocket frame where you have two wheels touching the floor most of the time, the two wheels touching the floor gives the boot a little more maneuverability. Like, if you get what I mean, if that's the word, you are able to maneuver very well if you use a rocket frame on a carbon shell boot, because this boot is very stiff. So if you have it on a flat setup, it's very stiff. You can't really turn and stuff like that. Like, especially if you're on flat land, you can't really turn, except you have your wheels worn out, and the wheels are worn out to like some kind of a natural rocker. But most of the time, skating carbon shells with rocket frames are the best way to go, because, like I said, the rocket frame complements like the stiffness of the carbon. I don't know if that's the word, it complements the word, but then, because, like I said, the carbon shell isn't forgiving. The fact that the frame is rocket and you have more maneuverability from the frame, that combination between how stiff and supportive the boot is and how maneuverable the frame is perfect, because every move you make is precise, and this is very maneuverable, so you would actually like enjoy it very well. That's why, if you observe, most of the time, like I said earlier, slalom skaters are on carbon shells. And a lot of times, slalom skaters, 99% of the time, are skating rocket frames, regardless of the fact that their frames are very short. But most of the time, their frames are rocket, because they have to do all those maneuvers around the cones and stuff like that. And having the stiffness of the carbon shell boot, and that kind of frame where you don't have all wheels touching the floor, is perfect for them. And someone is going to ask, what if they have plastic shell boots? Yes, if you do have plastic shell skates, that's fine. You can equally do some kind of wizard skating. But if you want to go if you want to go into like more wizard style tricks where you'll be doing all those kind of maneuvers and stuff like that, you would actually take more time to learn it, because on the plastic shell skate for wizard skating, you would have to concentrate very well, because the least amount of flex you get on the least amount of flex, or if you bend a little too much, the carbon shell is going to the plastic shell is actually going to like throw you off a bit, because like I said, this is very flexible, as you can. This is very flexible, like flexible plastic. So if you lean a little too much, the plastic boot is going to throw you off. Whereas on the carbon shell, that is very responsive. You are free to like lean around in every direction and be sure it is going to be there and it's going to hold you up. So for wizard skating and slalom skating and stuff like that, the carbon shell is the way to go. Very supportive. But if you are going to do like a mix, like, you would want to be doing a little bit of wizard skating, a little bit of urban skating, then a plastic or a carbon shell will be a thing of preference. Like, I mean, if you needed just one skate to do everything, I think a plastic shell is good enough, or just a carbon shell is good enough. It comes down to the price, and that's also another thing I'm going to be talking about. Like, carbon shells are very expensive, are like a lot of times twice as expensive than the plastic shell skids. So, for instance, I can't remember the prices off the top of my head, but from last time I checked, a full MT3, a full MT4 boot, like with the boot and frames and wheels and everything, actually is less expensive than a carbon boot only. Like, for a carbon shell boot only, it's more expensive than a plastic shell full setup. And again, like, that depends on the kind of plastic shell or the kind of brand and stuff like that. But most of the time, the carbon is more expensive than the plastic. So if you would want to get one skate, it comes down to preferences. But if you are going to be doing like typical wizard skating only, or leaning into flatland and stuff like that, or like very big wheels, the carbon shell is the way to go. But if you are going to be doing a lot of urban skating, cruising around the city, jumping up and down and stuff like that, I think a plastic shell is the way to go, because this is a little bit more forgiving, and you would get away with a lot being on a plastic shell than on a carbon shell. In terms of durability, they are both durable. Like, yeah, they are both durable. Like, nothing is made to last forever. But then, obviously, if you skate these every day for like say a year, the carbon shells are going to last more than the plastic shells are going to last, because you can break more stuff on the plastic shell than on the carbon shell. And also over time, like, but I have only quad skates. I love, my quad skate price is 2,500. I didn't read all of that. My phone is very far away, full stretch. But if you have just quad skates, I've skated quads before, and I mean, they are nice. You actually have like, you can do, like, you can do a little bit more on quads in terms of like flatland dancing and stuff like that than you can do on inlines. I mean, if you would want to get inlines, I think you should get inlines. There is nothing wrong with having them both. Like, I skateboard, I inline skate most of the time, but I skateboard too, and I roller skate as well. So a lot of the times I just post my inlines because I don't want to like mix up content and stuff like that. But whichever one you have is great, as long as like you are having a good time and enjoying your ride. Yeah. So coming back to the durability of the skates. If you have a plastic shell over time, you can break more stuff on the plastic shell. So like, on the plastic shell, I don't know if a lot of people have the kind of skates I have, but these are the micro MT4s. And on the cups, there is a little piece plastic here. And if you close it, it clicks. That's what keeps the cups locked in, or this buckles here locked in, right? But what happens is, if you jump too much, or if you land a hard trick and you have all your skates tightened up, they sort of snap open. And when they keep snap opening, you are going to break that little plastic piece. And if that plastic piece break, it means your skates or your buckles wouldn't be locked in. And anytime they would have to open, and you would have to close them again. Whereas on the carbon skates, this is a ratchet buckle, if I got that right. Yeah, you just have to, you know, you click it and they tighten it. And if you want to release them, you press them here and you open them. These stay in regardless of the kind of jumps you make and stuff like that. But on the plastic shells, they end up opening. And so if you make a jump and this opens, you sort of lose the support on here. Whereas on the carbon shells, they stay in, like, they stay in unless you broke your buckle or something like that. And I also think, like, over a long period of time, so let me get my face down here. I think over a period of time, the plastic shells actually they look better when they are scratched. Like, that's a personal preference. I think the plastic shells look a little better. Like, they look better when they are scratched. It's like battle scars and all the experience showing around there on the boot, you know. But then on the carbon boots, because it's It's carbon underneath, but you have some kind of leather on the top. And if you fall too much and you scratch this, you are going to have like holes and dents in the leather. And over a long period of time, if you have too many of those, they wouldn't look so good on the carbon boots, because you would have all these scratches and holes in here. Whereas on the plastics, you know, it will just be like scuff marks and stuff like that. And I think, like I said, maybe it's a thing of preference. I think the plastic shells look a little much better when they are scratched and stuff like that. I think I have covered most of the stuff I want to talk about. I can't really think of anything else. I didn't make any notes. And it's hot out today. It's rainy season, but it hasn't rained for like the past 3 days. So it's hot out today. I'm sweating a lot. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments below. I would get back and answer them later. And also, if you're enjoying my videos, I realize most people that watch my videos are not subscribing to my channel. Please, please, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. If this video was helpful, or if this information was helpful, you can share it on to somebody else. I would really appreciate it. It helps keep the whole YouTube thing going. Leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. If there is anything I didn't touch, you can let me know in the comments. I'll get back to you on that. And for those that enjoy my content and would like to support me, I do have a Patreon. I have merch. This shirt I'm wearing here, it says "No hate, just kids." It ships around the world for $24.99 and actually this one worldwide shipping is print on demand. So if you go on the link in my YouTube, you can actually order that and you would get the exact same thing, because I use the exact same design to print it locally. So I make it locally and ship to whoever wants them locally. And also, if you are on the other side of the world, you can go on the website on the link. I don't know where it is, but on the YouTube chat, you can see it somewhere. And also, I have a Patreon. I would want to give a huge shout out to my Patreons. I have 5 Patreons currently. I can't remember your names off the top of my head, but then they are in the description below. And if you would want to support me on Patreon, you can do that for as little as $3 a month. It goes a long way to help me. The crew is getting bigger. Me and the boys are going around, and like it's a lot. It helps us go around and stuff like that to make all these videos and stuff. So if you enjoyed this one, be sure to subscribe and share the video if you found the information helpful. Also, let me know what else you would want me to talk about sometime later, and I'll do another live stream on there. It's been an interesting one. Thanks to all those who came out to watch it. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm going to see you guys again in another video. Have a great weekend. Cheers.